Okay, just like you, our student Tara Coburn, and you can find her student sample on pages 23 and 24 in our textbook Short Prose Reader. Um, she had to read an essay. She read Handled with Care by Bob Greene that I also had you read. That started around page 8 in our textbook. And so she decided that based on a writing prompt of explaining a time in her life when something was fragile, or she realized the fragility of life, she came up with this essay. I want to walk you through it. First thing is that she put it in MLA format, and you'll see here that she inserted a header with her last name and the page number, and this should be in Times New Roman, and you'll have to make that choice. Over here, the MLA says it should be student name, professor name, it should be the course number, and it should be the date, and then we have a title. I also have placed many comments over here for you so that you can read them later. She, as you know, was 8 years old, and she started out talking about a red yarn bracelet that she wore around her ankle. I remember having one of these. She tugs on it and it breaks, and that is her way of bringing us into how interesting, this interesting account. First thing she does is, and you should do this as well in your essay, is she refers to his essay by title, Handled with Care, and author, and then she provides a very short summary of his essay. She says it describes how the sudden appearance of a naked woman on busy Michigan Avenue taught, whoops, I made a little error there, the people walking in the street a similar lesson. That, and here she integrates the quotation from Bob Greene's essay, the line is so thin between matters being manageable and being out of hand. Notice that she integrates this. You can do this in a number of ways. You can say Bob Greene wrote, or the author argued. Here she sort of blends it into her own sentence, but you must integrate quotations. Notice the in-text citation right here with just the page number, because above she already mentioned Bob Greene. She goes on to say that part of her world, her social fabric, she quotes Greene again. This time she didn't say Bob Greene leading up, so she uses his last name here with the citation, was based on my childhood belief that my father could do anything. Here's her thesis. It's very important that you have a narrative thesis. You can read my comments there about that. But basically anything that's in her thesis should be in this essay. So she tells us, when I began to see that my dad's strength was limited. So we're going to read a little bit about her father's limited strength, which we know we do. His weakness reminding me that life is fragile and fleeting. There is her response to the writing prompt about explaining a time in her life when she realized something was fragile. And she would have to learn to be strong on her own, which she does by the end of the essay. In her first and second paragraphs of her essay, she uses great detail. She talks about building a snow bunny and how strong her father was, and he would lob up, I love that word, lob, up the giant snowballs to make that bunny. In the second paragraph, she talks about how hard it was to make homemade ice cream, the last couple cranks of the frozen ice cream, and he would come and do this with his great strength, or he would make things, he would fix things. Even her cat, she says, seems to know that he fixes everything, and he's built many things. So lots of specific examples. But now she gets to one of the points of her thesis where she talks about the tear in her social fabric. And again, that's a reference to Bob Greene. And she begins to tell us about how her father became weaker or even a little more confused about things as far as technology is concerned. And that she tells us she had to be the one that he relied on. She says that right here. So right here in the conclusion, she brings this back to the original essay. References Michigan Avenue, and we get her second quote. You have to have 2 direct quotations from the original source and find a way to make them work. Notice here that her essay is not about a naked woman on Michigan Avenue, but she finds very specific things within there that relate to her. And she concludes her essay. Here is her works cited page. This refers to the Handled with Care essay that she quoted. You'll have to have one of these too. I want you to notice that the second line is indented. That's called a hanging indent. And I got this particular works cited information that I put together myself based on our Easy Rider by Lunford book from page 274. A work in an anthology. We have several works within inside of one textbook. Okay, so I hope this helps you a little bit, makes it a little bit clearer what I'm expecting for our very first